Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's stream. I am your host, Izzy Poirier from Ottawa, Canada, and I am very excited to be hanging out with all of you. And I'm seeing some familiar names in the chat already. Hi, Robert. Hi, Jack. Um, so nice of you to be hanging out with us. And today I am here with the brilliant Jules Christie-Clark, all the way from Glasgow, Scotland. And she is the founder of Designer in Your Pocket. How are you, Jules?
I'm good. I'm good. Slightly nervous, but I'm fine when we start.
Oh my gosh, nervous means that we're in for like the good stuff. So everyone, like honestly, like sit down tight because we are going to have an amazing project. I got to have a sneak peek, but without further ado, Jules, please introduce yourself to the lovely chat and the crowd watching and tell us what we will be working on today.
Yes, so I'm Jules. As you said, I'm a graphic designer, and for too many years, I'm not going to mention. And I specialize in working with small businesses, creators, entrepreneurs, with their branding, and more creating templates that they can then use themselves in expressing things and go away and create their own content and kind of mentor them and tutor them on how to create better graphics without needing a designer. So yeah, that's what I'm kind of doing. And today I'm kind of going to show you how something that I actually started creating for myself, um, that I've now started actually incorporating into some of my clients' work and using Firefly to do that. And I think one of the biggest things is when you have a quote, everyone loves a quote on Instagram now, but sometimes you can feel like they're a bit boring and people scroll by, people are getting lazier, they don't read. So if there's more than two lines, then they're not going to really take it all in. So I wanted to show what I've been doing recently with my own quotes is I love to talk about branding and how important it is, and you're always trying to find that different way of saying your logo's only a part of your brand. And
Mhm.
instead of just having the quote, I used Firefly and
Oh, hold
Express
on. We're
and
gonna.
I
Can we go back to what you had before because we just
so this is
switched.
before.
There you go. This is the
All right, okay,
before.
so this is a before, so when you have your quote standard on a template with your branded colours and your fonts and things. And I went into Firefly and I started doing some prompts of how my colours pink, my branding, so like how pink layers and icing on the cake and things. And I then changed it into this using
Wow.
Express, and it's much more impactful. People have been DMing me going, how did you create this? And people always expect me to say I did it in Illustrator, I did it in Photoshop. And when I told them I did it purely in Express, they're like, how? So then, of course, I started going, what else can I do? So I created the cocktail one. So your brand is a cocktail, get the mix right, or it's a disaster no one wants to drink. Just trying to kind of put a wee bit of humour in it. And again, generated the image on Firefly and then brought it in and started to add textures and things and play with the fonts. And then this one,
Wow.
again, a logo is like a perfect handbag to an outfit. It pulls things together, but the real style comes from everything else. And it's just a fun way to talk about things that we hear so often we start to ignore. And it really helps stop that scroll. I know that's an overused thing, but it's true. You have to find things that stop the scroll. And you don't just need to use it for work stuff. I always incorporate my pets into my Instagram. And then in the newest edition will be our little Cavalier puppy. So this is my daughter's cat. And again, I just wanted a fun way of, she's always stealing my seat in the office. So I took a picture of her on my chair and I'd nipped off to the loo, came back and she's sitting there. And that was the expression she was giving me, like, I am not moving. So I then used the effects in Express to turn it into more like a kind of poster feel. So then I was thinking, well, I'm a service business, but could we apply this same technique to a product business? And one of my clients is uh, she hand makes and crafts dog apparel, so leads and collars, and she has such a lovely backstory to her brand. I'll go onto her Instagram and just quickly give people a bit of background. So she's called Somadra, and that's Scottish Gaelic for luxury dog. And the rope that she uses for the leads and collars are made out of marine rope. She's located in the east coast of Scotland. her family have a history of fishing, and all
Mm.
the parts is all linked to what her family used for the ropes and things. And she loves her brand and she loves to post, but she finds she struggles to post content because she doesn't want to feel like she's selling all the time. And you can see
Right.
there's lots of images of her leads and the beautiful colours and her own dogs. But again, she wants to feature other dogs, but it's very expensive to pay people to get brand photo shoots. And in Scotland, the weather isn't always, well, can't guarantee it, so you might book it all and it's raining. So I wanted to show how we can help her create content that one is quick and doesn't, it still looks amazing and looks very luxurious using the methods that I've used for my own content that I do on my own page. So I'm going to start off with just a simple quote. Now, how you speak with words, they answer with wagging tails. And I kind of found, you'll see when I go through the examples, I'm trying to weave the story of her branding through the imagery
Mhm.
and connect to the location, the feel of stormy clouds and or bad weather, basically, because it's sometimes it's lovely, not. And how there's a whole emotion when the attachment people have to their dogs, and you want to give them something really special, and that's what her products are. And I could start off with going to her brand and changing her fonts. So I've got her brand kit set up, and I could change now the font, and we could change the background color. Let's just change it to the blue. We could change the text to white, and we could even add in her one of our logos. Could even put in, this is our dogs in the corner, but you can see you're like, again, it's like done before, it's a bit flat, it's not very
Yeah.
interesting. And you might then go, right, okay, what stock photography is there? And if I type in dogs on the beach, there's some great photography. But the issue is, if I put this one in, this is not a Scottish beach. The colours are all wrong, and it doesn't look like it could be how local. So we could have maybe this one is a little bit better, and we could set it to the background and play around with the position so we can then see the words. But again, it's a bit better with the image, but you just think it could be a bit better. Let me just arrange this right. So then I start thinking, right, I'm going to jump to Firefly because this is okay, but again, it's very samey to a lot of content that's out there. And the
Hmm.
secret is you're always wanting to stand out now, don't you? You always people you feel need to up level what you're creating.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to go to generative AI and I'm going to prompt it to generate an image for me. And I'm going to make it portrait so that it fits in with our social
Oh, yeah.
graphics size. Yep.
The new size that was
The new
like,
size, yes.
yeah, yeah, pushed on us out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
the new size. And I'm just going to pop it in the box. Now, the trick I've found when I've been experimenting with generating images is you have to be really descriptive. And the more descriptive you
Yes.
can be, like I was trying some earlier, and if I just put a dog sitting proudly, then the dogs I get are not that great. Like they're not really, like you can't tell what kind of dog it is. It's a bit of a kind of mismatch, or they can have funny ears and things. And I really want to describe the Scottish landscape to really make it feel like it is images she could have taken herself or
Hmm.
photographers taken for her, and not jar with her other photography because it is always in the forest and at the actual coast where she lives. So I've asked it to give me an overcast sky so that it gives me a more realistic um, image rendering and cinematic lighting. And I'm going to click on content and make it a photo. And then one of the things I like to do as well is go to themes and make it hyper realistic. I just find it helps kind of give me much more um,
The
better
result.
results.
Mm-hmm.
And I have prepared some earlier, but I just want to see what it actually gives me live when I'm doing this with you just now, um, to see if it gives me something different than I got before. And I know that it's a bit, so it's been quite quick. Oh, actually, this I'm going to just enlarge this so we can see it. So that's actually really quite lovely.
That's
And
really
if
good.
it is, isn't it? And if I zoom in, I mean, we can see how good that image is, and you can absolutely use that on your socials. And if I click between them, oh my goodness, they're
Wow.
all lovely. And that's not bad from the first prompt, and that we've not had to do, well, I suppose I was doing all the tweaking earlier, but be specific with the dog you want, and I've put I want a spaniel. And I love actually that because we've asked it for the kind of overcast background, it's even made them a bit muddy and a bit dirty, which is what they would look like if they were on running
Yeah.
about in the beach, and
So
especially spaniel.
we have a lovely comment in the chat here from Darren saying the muddy paws don't even look AI generated. And he also is asking, can I adopt these?
Oh, I know it's just like maybe I want another one. Um, so yeah, so I think I'm trying to think which one to pick. Oh, I like
Oh,
him, and it looks like a boy dog, doesn't it? I think I might go with
yes.
this guy.
I mean, to me,
Um,
this is proudly, right? Like you said,
oh,
proudly. To me, this is really
proudly,
proud.
yes.
Yes.
And you can see how the prompt's important. If I'd just said a dog sitting on top of a boat and not give that description, and it wouldn't have gave you that look to his face, I don't
Hmm.
think. And even the background, it's really pretty accurate for a Scottish seaside town, which, as you know, is really important because that could totally look like where Gillian lives in for Parker Brand. So I've got an image that I'm really happy with. So I'm going to copy that and I'll put it onto a new page. And I'm thinking, right, how could I take this quote here? I just grab it, I'm going to copy it and put it onto this page, and I'll change it to white so that we can read it. But again, I think it's a much stronger image, but I know there's much more we can do to this because I think what people often forget is they don't just they can't just design with their images and elements. You can design with the actual typography you're using, and you can make some really lovely, bold graphic looks and posters with how you style your typography. And it's actually one of my favorite things to do is to mess with typography when creating graphics. It's like the forgotten element. People just type in the same size and the same weight and things
Hmm.
like that when there's a lot you can do to kind of change the feeling. And what I'm going to do is start to break up that content. So if I remember what I'm doing, I'm just and that way you're like, yeah, so what do I do now? Okay, dokies. If we speak with words, hang on. Oops.
So while Jules is setting this up, I want to invite everyone in the chat that if you have any questions, Jules is pretty much like a master in Adobe Express and can answer all of your questions. So feel free to ask your questions and let's just geek out together.
Yeah. Although please don't ask me something that I'll go, I don't know the answer to that. That's what I go, Izzy, you can help me.
I mean,
So I'm just
if
going
you
to
don't, that's
Mhm.
fine.
And I'm going to grab this word on its own, and I'm going to enlarge it up in size. And I want to change this font. I want this font to be a really chunky, heavy, bold font because that's what works best. And if I go up here, oops, and select them all. Do you know how that way you find when you know people are watching you? This is when you fumble over
Oh
how
my
you
gosh,
design.
no.
Oh, and I'm just going to enlarge this up a little bit so it's really quite big.
If
But then I
anything,
want to,
people are,
Mhm.
I was gonna say people are mesmerized. Like to me, whenever I watch someone else design, it's just like, wow. Like it's the pressure's on is not on. It's people are just mesmerized. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to create that lovely cutout text effect, which can be quite hidden in here, I think, and not everyone knows it's actually there. So I've went into effects at the top, and I'm going to go down to shape and go into view all. And if I click this one, it does give me that now background box behind the text. But if I just click on the toggle, and there's this one here that says cut out text. And I kind of, when I was first starting to experiment, I found it by accident. And I thought, oh, why is that so hidden away? And if I want to change the colour of the background, I want to make it a darker colour so you can see the image through the back, then already you're starting to get this really nice effect, um, which I'm going to sit
Wow.
up here slightly. And so it just immediately adds a whole other feel to this graphic now. And I'm going to
You know,
just bring this
I
in.
love that what you do with your composition, Jules, is that it looks so editorial.
Yes, yes. It's almost like you could imagine this being a poster on the wall of in their
Yeah.
office where they make their how crafts and things like that. Now or you
Mm-hmm.
could use it on the front of an advert as well as your socials. So you can use it, create it once, but use it in several different ways. Um, so this is why I love to like design with the typography. Um, and I tend to find that I do that first before I reach for adding elements and things like that as well. So I've got the first part starting to form, but you'll see that I have this top edge that isn't in the cutout. So there's two ways we could do that. We could go back into effects and I'll click on the wee toggle again, and you can change this so it starts to now increase the size of the bar. But sometimes I find that when I do that, it makes it too deep, like in this part here, and I don't want it to be that deep. So sometimes I just keep it about here, but I'm then going to go to elements and go to my shapes, and I'll add in a square, which I can then just drag across the top and give me that extra bit and make it the same color as the background box. So that's kind of helped fill in that space for me without ending up with it too deep underneath. And then of course now our recute guy is behind. So what I want to do is I'm just going to copy and paste the image, and I'm
Oh,
going to remove the
smart.
background. And again, this is where things can go from looking a bit flat to having a bit of depth to it, and now making things look much more um, I don't want to say complicated, that's not the word, but just have a bit more to it, and get people looking a bit longer because they see the dog sitting in front of the words. So they have to kind of take a couple of seconds to read what the word is, which makes them stay at the graphic a bit longer. Um, and I don't know if you've got any questions or anything if you want me to answer.
Yes, actually, Carol is asking what was the name of the font from the first posters that you showed with the cherry and the handbag?
Oh, so it's actually a custom font I have, and it's called Milky Way, I'm sure it's called. I can check, but it's one that I've got from I think it was Creative Market and uploaded and used. So yeah, and it's a really nice one.
It is
I
nice.
yeah. So now I've got that part. Now you can see I'm starting to just kind of play and think, right, where can I place this? And I'm just going to drag this up so it's still sitting up the top. And I think I want the tails to be the bigger word, so I'm just going to copy that. So I've now just got the tails in a separate text box, so I can manipulate that compared to this one.
Also, the compliments are flooding in the chat. So we have
Oh,
Evie saying, love this cutout and overlay idea. We have Darren saying, like a magazine cover or poster. And I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name properly, but Maecilius is saying, watch out, Vogue magazine.
oh. So I've just like manipulated the leading slightly and just pulled everything in a bit tighter together. Since I've got this one going over the two lines. And I'm going to again change this font to match words. So it's the nice bold font. And again, move it so that it sits above the wee guy. And this again, I like to kind of play. Sometimes I'll sit it in front, sometimes I'll sit it underneath. It just depends on the image. So again, there, I don't actually mind that too much. I might just move it so slightly so you can actually see that it's a T.
Mm.
But I think it's really quite sweet to just have it ever so slightly, the pause overlapping, like just
Oh,
barely.
such a wonderful, tiny detail that makes such a difference. It's
Uh-huh.
insane.
Because then it just makes the letters look like they're actual 3D, um, which is quite cute. And I just, again, it's a little difficult to read that text. So I just want to add a bit of a drop shadow so that it just stands out a little bit more. And again, there's lots of different settings we can choose. I tend to go with smooth, but then I like to just go in and edit the color and just, whoops, I just took it off there. Yeah, change it slightly and maybe go in and maybe make it a wee bit more blurred and change the angle. So I don't always stick with the presets. I always like to go in and tinker and make them a bit different from the preset, just because again, lots just use the presets and don't realize you can actually manipulate. And it's when you actually start manipulating, gives that really lovely results that look a bit different.
Hmm.
So this is coming together quite nicely. Um, and here we're not trying to show the product at all or even link to the product. We just want people to start associating these lovely images and this style of graphic to their branding so that when they see it, they don't feel that they're selling all the time, but they're still being visible and they're still posting and they're putting out something that's a bit cute. It might get shared. If you're changing the dogs, people go, that's like my dog. Now there's just lots of lovely ways to how incorporate this, and there's lots of brilliant quotes that link to how you feel about your dog and daily life. So there's an abundance of content you could go with this. And I just want to kind of because I'm not using their products, I am going to put their logo in here, and I don't always put logos in a lot of social graphics, but I think when it's a product, it's actually quite nice because it's just that wee reminder, isn't it? And just that whole subconscious thing where you're aware of the brand. So I'm going to use one of their kind of stamp brands rather than their big logo because again, there's so many ways you can use this logo, which I'll show in some of the examples I've prepared. But I don't want it to be like super in your face. So again, this is where layering is so important. I'm going to put it to the front, but then I'm going to just sit it underneath.
Mm.
Whoops, so that it's just slightly cut off. And again, there's just something really nice when you do that. And it's at an angle slightly. It feels like it's just like kind of being maybe like a wee sticker that's been stuck on top. And how it just gives it a different feeling. So I think it's kind of coming together quite well.
It is.
But there's one more thing I want to add to this too. And again, this is the whole kind of storytelling part of your branding and linking to the product without actually showing the product. And I want to add a bit of texture and graininess to this rather than it being a super polished, clear image. I want it to be a bit rough and a bit now battered. It's probably a good Scottish word, a bit battered. to this, because I think, again, if we start to use this technique on these types of images, it starts to become recognizable with the brand. And so when people would really start to recognize it when they're scrolling. So to do that, I'm going to go to elements. And I'm going to add a couple of different ones. And again, there's so many in here. I literally have a field day in here with all the different ones. And I'm going to type in paper texture first. And I'm going into my design assets and just start to browse. But I'm looking for the ones that are like watercolor paper. They've got a bit of a grain to them.
Hmm.
Just let me find one.
This Me too. Whenever I start designing with these, like you said, it's a bit of a rabbit hole because then I want to try
Yes.
them all and then I don't know which options I like the most. And it's
Yeah.
insane how much
Oh, it's
there
fun.
is in the library asset in Adobe Express. I'm always amazed with that.
Yes, and I do find that I don't know about you, but inspiration hits me at like 11 o'clock at night, and then I look at I look at the clock. It's 1 in the morning. I go, oh, I hadn't even noticed 2 hours
Yeah,
had went by.
whoops.
Oopsie. And then my husband goes, "What time do you get to bed, Jules?" Shh, no, no, it's
Yeah,
fine. Just after
exactly.
midnight. Just after midnight. Right, so you can see I've got this, if I zoom right in, this really quite grainy paper texture, which I love. And again, under the edit section, there's a really lovely, quite hidden bit with opacity. It doesn't just show you the opacity, we've also got multiply
Ah,
and screen.
yes.
Now, screen, again, use them all the time. This time I'm going to use multiply because what you'll find is if I zoom in here, just zoom back in, I think I'll make it up to 100 so you can really see it. And if I go over where the white of the font is, you can really see that texture. And that's what I want. So it's barely noticeable. You can see it slightly over the image, but it's subtle. But then when we get to down here, the font now looks like it's cut paper rather than um, stark white text, which just gives it that bit of a different feel. So we've got that, and it's the top layer, but because we have used that opacity setting, you barely see it. And again, if I zoom in really close, you can see that it slightly
Mhm.
gave that effect over the logo as well, which is just really, really nice. Um, so I've got that one, but I am going to give it another texture, and I'm going to go with grainy this time.
So
And sometimes,
while you
yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
I just want to, because we have a wonderful question actually from Macilius. It is asking, is less is more an important thought to have when trying out these images and quote?
I think sometimes less is more, and I'll show an example where I don't have the cutout text, so I can show you what it just looks like with fonts. But again, I feel like this is your chance to have a bit of fun and a bit of a play with what you can create. And then once you find a style you like, then go with it because your other content can be quite minimalistic, and then you can just occasionally have a nice bold graphic. And I find when I post my ones on my profile, they always get loads of engagement. They always get people saying, "This looks lovely. How did you create this?" So it sparks conversation just because it looks a bit different. It depends again what you're creating for and what kind of brand you're designing for, what kind of business you have yourself. But there's a way you can use these techniques, I think. Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering that. So basically, it's defining like what's the intent of the post
Yes.
in the moment.
Yes. And again, I'm just having a wee scroll. A wee scroll. Let's go with this one. Now this one has came in really quite heavy and I don't want it to be as heavy. So I'm going to go back to opacity and this time I'm going to use the multiply so that it darkens it down. But I don't want it to be black. So I'm going to go back into effects, and we've got some extra ones now, which is really lovely. Now we've got all the filters and things. And I'm kind of going to just change these so that it changes the colors slightly. We can change it to a cool tones, a bit of blue in there. And then if I go back to edit, I can then take down the opacity. So that it's quite, again, subtle. So though I'm using these effects, I'm really taking down the opacity so that they're not really, really strong. And now I feel it gives it that lovely bit of slightly worn, now a bit like the dog, a bit like the boat it's sitting on, now in the harbour. It's not brand new and it looks real and lived in, which, and again, with dog walkers, like when I'm out walking my dogs, I am covered in muck. I am dirty. I've got paw prints all over me. So this feels more gritty and real than a lovely, beautifully shampooed dog. That is not the reality. So yeah, so we've went from like a quote with a stock background and our logo to generating an image in AI, and then adding our own spin and graphics to it as well. So that's the first one. And I don't know if you want me to, if anyone's got any questions, then I'll move on.
Well, I want just to give us a time check. So we're already halfway
Right,
in
okay.
our
Oh my
stream, which
goodness.
is, I know, right?
It is a time warp. Well, what I'll do is I'm going to just talk you through some images that I've generated and the prompts that I used for them. So you can see how we can really start to kind of create a kind of look and feel. And then I have a product one that I want to kind of talk through, so that if you
Okay.
do want to showcase your product, how you could do it is a little bit different. So originally when I did the prompt, this is the results that I got. I got this, again, the beautiful spaniel. And I got one where he's like looking away now, and I've created a quote we can use for that. And then this one here again, where again he's got the mucky paws. But if I zoom in, I mean, he looks fantastic. He really does look like he's outdoors. So they worked brilliantly. And this prompt, I've put in the same prompt, but I've changed it to a white West Highland Terrier to see what results it would give me. And I got this cute guy.
Oh my goodness.
How cute is he?
Oh,
And then to change it from the harbour, a border collie walking along a misty coastal path in Scotland, earthy tones, windswept, moody atmosphere. And again, I've made a really super, super descriptive um, prompt. Think of every adjective you could imagine, stick it in your prompt because it'll give you a better result. Rather than a dog walking along a coastal path, you could get anything then. And it gave me this guy.
wow.
Now, this is so realistic to a Scottish coastal landscape, like the harsh heather and the grass and the kind of
The
path, and then
wind.
the wind. Oh my God! So I have a collie, and she does look like that quite a lot with the fur flying and things. So, and again, it's just super realistic. So we could apply those same techniques with the text to turn that into a finished graphic, or you could just post that picture. Now, so if you just wanted to quickly post that day and put something in your caption, it gives you a beautiful image. And she's appealing to dog owners, so people are going to stop and look at that because it is just such a beautiful image. And I think it's really hard to tell that it's AI.
AI.
Now, I
I
think it looks
know.
really, really good. This one, a black Labrador resting beside hiking boots on a forest trail, and this time I've asked it to do early morning light to give me a different look and feel. And look at this cute guy.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
The
So,
it's insane because just even
uh-huh.
seeing the light, like you see like on the
Yes.
front of the head,
Uh-huh.
you see like
Yep.
that
And it's on his
sun ray.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's
Uh-huh.
even changing the color of the fur, which is that's insane to me how good it's gotten.
So that is just, and even the boots are super accurate. They look a bit
Yeah.
worn. The soles are a bit worn. I could not believe. that prompt that they gave me. Um, and then I've got a Springer Spaniel running through heather-covered hillside with stone path, soft cloudy sky, muted natural tones, and it gave me this guy.
Oh my goodness.
And again, and again, just like super realistic. And I did find that when I was trying to generate people, I was really having to test the prompt and tweak the prompt and things. But I did manage to get a woman tying a lead onto her dog before a Scottish coastal walk, calm, intimate lifestyle tone. And this is what it generated for me, which
Wow.
again I think is pretty realistic. It looks like it would be somebody along the Scottish coastline, which is what we're really trying to get here, so that it's authentic to their brand. Oops, apologies. So the last one before I kind of show you the next tutorial is Labrador off center, because I noticed it was always giving me the dog in the center of the image. So I asked him to be off
Mm.
center, sniffing through woodland, forest background. And look at him.
Oh my goodness.
It's just a beautiful shot. And look at his eyes. So from there, I then thought, oh, so let's just start creating. And this one is I wanted to have the husky sitting on top of the hillside and just like contemplating the world, having a quiet moment. And again, what I've done is I've added some textures to the background. So you've got that texture on the text and on the image. And this time I've not wanted the logo to be super obvious and like take away from the design. So I have changed that to screen. So if I change it back to normal and put the opacity right back up, it is still that dark green solid coloured logo, but I have made it the screen and reduced the opacity right down so that it's just like a kind of watermark. And again, it's
Mhm.
just a really nice way to kind of get more leverage out of your branding without feeling like you're sticking the logo in the same place in um every graphic kind of thing. And again, if I take the grain away, it gives you a really nice image, but it feels much more kind of like I'm trying to find the
It,
words.
it almost feels like almost too perfect. So by adding
Yes,
that texture, it adds that realness to it. So because
yes,
if I may, I find that sometimes like when you do AI generated images, it just looks just a tad too polished. I just like I do
yes,
like,
yes,
it's too like, yeah.
yes, yeah,
But by adding this, it just adds that realness to it where you can truly fool. And we're not trying to
yeah,
fool here. It's basically you're trying to convince like the audience of a lifestyle for that brand.
yes, absolutely. And if I just go through some of the others again, this guy, I've changed it into a bit without having the cut out letters effect, just having the text on its own, but we still get that lovely um, roughness and feelness to it. And
Hmm.
this time, what I've done rather than adding a logo, this is actually part of their logo. It's a tagline, but I've just hidden the logo, so we're just seeing the
Wow.
tagline. So instead of having like the product shot, this we still got luxury dog apparel, but we don't actually have to feature the product. So then my
Hmm.
client doesn't feel like they're constantly being salesy. But again, you are going to stop and look at that because you don't need a destination links to, you can just go a wander, go a wee wander, and it doesn't matter where you and your dog go, kind of thing.
Wow.
Um, and it shows how, when I was talking about there's multiple images we can generate in seconds. So there's multiple ways we can use
Wow.
this technique. This is the same technique that I used in mine, but we've
Can
changed
we
the. Mhm.
can we zoom in on this one just because
Yes,
you have removed the background for the boat and there's like tiny lines for that boat here because there's a lot of details.
I'll show
And
you how I
just
did that. Yep.
please.
Yes, I'll show you how I did that. So, because actually, it took away some of the boat initially when I used background remover. So if I quickly grab it again. And then I'm going to add a page. Right, so this was the image that I started with. And I'll copy and paste. And when I cut out the background, you could, and if I move this out the way, you'll see that it's actually taken away part of the boat. And at first I was like, oh, damn it. Like I want to use this. However, if you go up to erase, it actually gives you erase or restore. So I clicked on restore, and instead of quick selection, I used the circle brush. And if I hover across, you can see that
That's
it's
amazing.
filling that back in, and then click done. And now it's gave me back that little bit of the boat that I was missing. So it's really good to know that you can do that and play around with what it's removed and kind of tweak it kind of slightly. And then it means on this page where I had this image, I can move that underneath. And if I zoom back in, you can see how it's got enough of those elements coming in front of the image to really stand out like that. So if I put that there, you can see how it's a lot of
Right.
it's hidden. And now I've moved it back in place and it's got enough of that boat popping through. And again, it just adds depth and interest to your image and really give it that editorial feel that it didn't have before. So there's so many ways you can use the cutout text. I mean,
It's
you could even,
insane.
there's one that I'll show you when we're doing the product one, and I've used a kind of quite a pale background to the cutout, so it's not bold, it's actually quite subtle. Um, this one, oh, this is, I love this one, the way it turned out. And again, the exact same techniques that I walked through before, but just adding that layer and having the dog pop out in front. And because he's walking, it just gives you that lovely feeling. And I'll keep talking about feelings, but that's what you're trying to do, aren't you? You're trying to evoke feelings when people look at the
Yes.
graphics. And I think that's what this is managing to do. And then the last one, wherever the path leads, we follow it together, and it just fits in really nicely with the spaniel again because they've got the really cute faces. And again, the way the Firefly generated the results, it's so easy to pick that dog out from the background and then have that cutout effect going behind. And if we go to if you just this one here is one of our product shots. And it's a lovely photograph, but they don't want to repeat it too often because then people have seen it before. But if we could just generate a different background, and what I'd done, if I can see, let me just, I'm going to click on my thumb view so I can find it. And again, it's nice when you kind of see the thumb view because you can see how they all come together and how they all look, and they've got a set style. And if you imagine seeing that repeated, you would really start to identify and get to quite something that people recognize. Oh, here it's here. So I've created a prompt for just the path this time, now how to generate and how coastal path with the rough grass. And I'm going to use that combined with this image here. So I have going to remove the background.
Also, I want to give you a quick time check that we have
Oh, right,
about
okay.
like 11 minutes. So
Oh my goodness, it's just like
I
go on
know.
fast forward. Oh dear. So I've removed the background and I'm going to grab the image and bring it in behind. And again, we've got this image, but I don't want the background to overpower the image. So I'm going to go into effects and I'm going to go to view all. And there's a really nice one called cinematic. And again,
Ooh.
it's a bit dark, but I'm just going to reduce the intensity. So it does darken around the edges, but it's helping the image of the product stand out a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just, again, it's a lovely way to get more life out of maybe if you have limited budget and you do have some product photography, then there's different ways you can use it, generate a new background that fits with what you have already. And you can then like do this prompt. And when we do this, if I click on it here, because I just want to show you the rest of them and how we've used them, is I've done the exact same technique as the graphs, but this time I've used this layer as a light background. So I've went back in here and I've just changed to a light grey. And in that way, it's not too overpowering because you want the product to be the bit that
A
stands out the
star.
most.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't want the dark background. And again, I've changed just their kind of outline logo here. But again, I've
Hmm.
added the graininess on top so that it keeps that same
Look and
feel
feel.
consistent.
Hmm.
Yeah, through everything else. Um,
So we have a comment here from Robert saying, I like Express more and more, which I think this sets up the stage really well for you to talk about your transition from Canva to Express as you design.
Yeah, so Canva I actually started using because my clients, when I was handing over their branding, Canva was what they were using to create their own content with. But then I was finding there was lots of questions they were asking me, like how do I do this and do that? And there's so many features, but you want to know how to design better graphics. So then when obviously Adobe brought out Express, there was a lot of work for me as a designer to create my logos in Illustrator, so they're vector format. I would have to download all the formats, re-upload into Canva, and then build like the brand kit separately because now you can't share brand kits. So I then started using Express and realized I could import my logos like straight into the libraries and then access the libraries from Express, create the brand kit without having to download all of I was like, oh my God, I've just saved myself like 10 hours. And it's always that task you hate to do because it's so mind-numbingly boring. And yes. And then you just want to get to design stuff. And then finding that they can use this really easily and if they've got an issue or they want me to update something, I can do it with an Illustrator and then add it into the brand kit Express and then they've got it. It appears in their
It's
brand kit as
like,
well because I can share it with them. The fact that I can actually create it once, I felt like I was having to repeat things and do it 2 or 3 times, put it in my own Canva, but then I just the tools and the scheduler I love. I tell everyone about the scheduler and how good the scheduler is and that you can like post carousels, post reels, and how post more than from one account. I've got 2 different Instagram accounts, my brand one and designer a pocket one, so I can have both on there. And then my clients, it was an easy transition for them because they were a bit scared, going, well, is it difficult to use? Because they think Adobe, they think it's going to be like Illustrator or Photoshop.
mhm.
And even things like these filters are built from Photoshop, so they're beautiful. Every single one just gives you such a different effect and look to them without having to go in and muck about and use like Photoshop. I find, as is awful to say, I've hardly opened Photoshop because I just go into Express and just do it in Express because it's quicker. So I find I'm using it so much for my own content as well as like in my client work. So
Hold
yeah.
on, hold on. We need to give that a moment. You heard it here first, Adobe folks, or everyone watching, right? Instead of going to Photoshop, Jules starts in Express. which
And I
is
do, yeah. And as
yeah.
somebody I've literally used Photoshop since 1995. That's when I started using Photoshop. And now I'm actually
Wow.
using it less, unless I want to do like a really nice mock-up or something. But I'm going to Express first. And if I find I can't quite do it Express yet, then I'll go and open up now Photoshop. But I have this open all the time. Now the tabs open all the time to get used. Um, so this one with this forest, I'm just going to quickly remove the background. How do I do for time? Have I got time to show you one more? And
We have, I mean, 3 minutes,
all right,
four
okay.
minutes. Yeah.
I'll do this super quickly. And again, I'm just going to add a wee bit of a shadow to this. I'm going to jump in and edit the colors. What one will I make it? I do have a great love for cinematic, but I'll try and be different and I'll use grit. I'll just take the intensity down. Now I know I don't want to look like it's floating on the background, but I just want to have a bit of a different background than the one that was there originally so that we can reuse the same image without having to take a photograph of it again. And generating the image of the background was far quicker than me going through the stock library. Do you get it's a bit like looking for a font. You sometimes scroll images and you find you're just your mouse in an endless scroll. So this time I've just typed in what I want and I wanted a kind of mossy leaf forest floor. And then it's gave me this background to then use this as a product. And it just gives us that lovely kind of look to it. And then here, one I prepared earlier, since I've got like a minute left,
You
is
still have a few minutes. You
again,
have like 2 minutes. Yeah.
all right, okay. Again, I've used the same font style as the other graphics, but this time it's a product shot, but it doesn't feel like I'm selling. You know, it's still a beautiful image, it's a beautiful graphic, and I've even changed the style. It's still directing you to the product with the text that's on there, but it's not like a buy me now special offer type of graphic. So yeah, so if I go back to show you the thumbnails again, and I'll just give you a quick browse through so quickly how many images I've generated with Firefly in Express and been able to immediately start designing and creating all of this content that you could post 2, 3 times a week and have a month's worth of content all from this quick session.
And how much time did it take you to, because you have so much, how much time did it take you to do all this?
I'd say it took me a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours to figure out my prompts. And once I started getting the images I wanted, I could then just slightly tweak the prompt. And I quickly got like all of these. I could use any one of these. And then once I designed this one first, and then once I had that one, it was then
Hmm.
quite easy to replicate it and now just move things about or slightly change the grain. Once you've got one done, you can kind of repeat and be a bit faster. So yeah.
So 2 hours for a month of content. I mean, I think any
Yeah.
designer will take that, like the
Oh,
client
yeah.
will take that, everyone will take that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, the chat is just flooding with love. We have Carol saying,
Oh,
thanks, Jules, so impressive. Robert saying, good night. William saying, wonderful work. Love
oh.
your work, Jules. Darren is saying, wow, using Photoshop since 1995.
Yeah,
Gorgeous. I want to pet all the dogs. I mean, you
exactly.
definitely, yeah.
Yep, get the feeling. Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Jules, you have a design like a pro club. So quickly, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Design Like a Pro Club is just where you can get direct access to me in my community. If you're stuck with a design you're actually working on, send me a link to it. Ask me, Jules, I've been looking at this for 3 hours and I'm moving the same font back and forth. Then I'll go in and I'll just give you some tips. And it might be changing color, changing a font, moving things around slightly. And sometimes it's the smallest tweaks that suddenly make it look a lot better. And I found it's great. I can do workshops and show you, but actually, working on your own real graphics and me showing you how to improve them is something I'm finding people find really valuable because I help them there and then. And
Mhm.
it can be just a simple, sometimes it's a text reply telling you what to do, or I take your graphic and quickly change it and send it back to you. Yeah.
I mean, this is the best way to learn actually from one another. I think this is like
Mhm.
a wonderful opportunity. Everyone, make sure to check it out. Where can we find you, Jules?
So Instagram and TikTok, but mostly on Instagram. In fact, I have So Instagram is design in your pocket _ Jules, and that's where you'll find me every day. And there's my cute puppy. There's Obi.
Oh
There's
my
Obi.
goodness.
So he is 14 weeks, and he has thankfully stayed sleeping for this whole lesson. So yes.
That's amazing. Well, everyone, I think the chat moderators will be dropping the links in the chat. Thank you so much for showing us like all these golden, wonderful tips. This is amazing. And stay tuned, everyone. You can now go on Twitch to go see CA in LA, and we will see you back again soon. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.